Not too bad.
How are you today?
Okay. What's wrong with him?
Nothing's wrong with
He
me.
gets bad, I'll smack him here.
How old are you anyway?
Get back at that person. It was a few weeks ago.
He was sick?
Who's sick?
I
He said he
was.
was sick a couple of weeks ago.
Mr. Bear, could you say prayer for us, please?
You do the pledge first.
Oh, it kind of started, didn't it? I don't think the good Lord, it matters to the good Lord as long as we do it,
Well, that's a good point.
you know?
He's the one, he's the one that's got the problem.
There are 2 pages to sign, wasn't nothing on the back page to sign. I didn't look when I handed it over.
You're getting fancy with the color coding.
Oh, that's just over here. All right.
There's 3 or 4 farmers that just do this, right? There's more than that now, I haven't heard about 3 or 4.
Figure out how to get the comments to print off. Try to change his documents.
Colors or
And then the actual changes.
colors.
Oh, no, we have seen my reference to comments here.
That's a hard no. Appreciate it.
Just gave him a copy.
Oh, the one, okay. So I'm ready into all this stuff. These I don't have to right now, so.
I mean, I hope he. Yeah, he does. I don't think it's necessary.
The leases that have been sealed are just saying that. Oh, really? So they've signed that far back.
All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Start out with a pledge and prayer. Please rise, face the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Thank you, gracious Father, for this day. Father, another opportunity we have, another opportunity to have breath. We thank you for that. Father, I pray that you'd be with us this evening. Go with us as we have this meeting to work on the betterment of our community. And Father, just go with us and help us to be wise in our words and our actions and all that we say and do tonight and the days forward. Bless this evening, I pray, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. All right, I'll give the board a minute or two to review the minutes of the previous meeting, and then I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the planning commission meeting minutes from June 3rd.
All right, have a motion by Emily, is there a second?
Second it.
Seconded by Andrew and Kevin, right at the same time. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. All right, Mr. DeFore, would you come forward? You're first on the agenda. Welcome.
Thank you. This thing on? Yes, it is. Thank you for giving me time to speak today. So, I've not been commissioned by anybody to do any kind of research. This is all stuff that I've decided to, just because of the topic being in the forefront of what's been going on, some of what's been going on in the county here for the last couple of months with green energy. I just took it upon myself to do a bunch of research, and I just wanted to share the things that I discovered with the board as a whole, so that basically it's just out there. And first of all, well, I'd like to make two disclaimers before I get started. First of all, I understand that there's a gentleman here from Ranger Power, and this is not anything accusatory towards any particular green energy provider. There's lots of them out there. Lots of counties have dealt with lots of different companies. I don't know about names in particular. So, like I said, it's nothing personal. These are just facts that I've discovered. Secondly, I would encourage you all to not take my word for it, but to do some research on your own and see if what I'm saying is in fact true, which I believe you'll find that it is. So anyway, I wanted to get into this and share some stuff that I have come across. And I came across most of this information, by the way, by talking with other counties who already have green energy systems implemented in their counties. Talking to county officials, talking to county attorneys, talking to county plan commissions, and talking to some individuals right here in Indiana. That's where I got all this information from. So on the issue of tax abatements, which commercial green energy companies, it's something that they ask for is tax abatements to keep from paying property tax on the systems. A lot of times what they will do, and I'm not saying they all do this, but these are some things that have been pointed out to me, is they will say that if you give them a tax abatement, they will give half of that money, they will put it back into the county for development money. And this sounds really good when you think about, because tax money comes in through the tax channels, as everyone understands, with the assessment and collection of taxes, and it gets appropriated to certain things like the schools and so forth. Most of it goes to the schools, etc. Well, when the tax money from a particular thing, half of that's going to come back in, it wouldn't be tax money, basically. It would just come back in as new money, basically. It's very tempting for public officials to take that deal because that money doesn't have to be used for the schools, for example. You can use it for other development projects. But it raises the tax base rather for all the rest of the people in the county, because the county still needs to pay for what it needs to pay for. So that was a concern that was brought up to me by multiple counties. The next one is that if the project, the system, is sold to a governmentally owned utility, for example, we're not in Louisville, but I'm using this as an example. LG&E is a governmentally owned utility. There are utilities owned by local governments. It's exempt. So there is no tax, period. If they build the solar farm and then sell it to a governmentally owned utility, which they have the right to do, there's no property tax collected on it because it's governmentally owned. So there, you're right out of that property tax advantage. Another concern was, and a couple counties that I talked to had dealt with this, actually dealt with it. They weren't just hypothesizing on it. They said there are transactions which can act to reduce the assessed value and thus the tax receipts, including but not limited to the sale, lease-back transactions, multiple sales, et cetera, where basically the green energy company can build a system, own it for a year or however long, sell it to another shell company of some kind for a greatly reduced price, therefore reducing the assessed value of the structure. And that can happen multiple times. It's perfectly legal. And then all of a sudden, when you think you're getting taxed on a $2 million or however many $1 million project, it very quickly over a period of a couple of years becomes a very cheap thing that you're collecting tax on.
Can you say that again?
So,
The very first sentence you were talking about.
so when one of these things is built, if they don't get a tax abatement and they build the utility, the system, the taxes that are going to be, it gets assessed and taxes are collected on it by the county and the state. So that's based on the cost of the installation.
Oh, okay.
Just like it is with a new house. Just like when you buy it, when
I
people
understand
sell
what you're
property,
saying.
it kind of sets the bar for what property is being assessed at. That's why all of our property taxes went up this last year, is because property has gone up in value. But they can reduce that by selling it at a very reduced rate to other companies that they're somehow associated with or maybe not associated with, I don't know. But it's been an issue that other counties have had to deal with, where they thought that there was going to be a huge property tax benefit from putting in the system, and then in a few years, by selling it back and forth, they reduced the value of it so incredibly that there was hardly any property tax collected on it. And in consideration of the comprehensive plan, which I don't know if anybody on the board currently was here when we authored the comprehensive plan in 2010. So we had a consultant write the first draft of the thing, and then the plan commission, we spent probably, 4 or 5 months writing amendments and drafts, and finally got something that everybody was happy with. But the main concern, I can tell you from memory, because I was there, the main concern of everybody, the county, the planning commission at the time, the county officials, everybody, was that we maintain that this county's farm or agricultural land would be protected by this plan. That was the main objective with the comprehensive plan. Now, I understand the comprehensive plan is not legislation. It's a guide. It's a model. So if you go to the comprehensive plan on page 14, it says agricultural protection. It says, because we value the county's prime agricultural land, we believe that most residential and commercial growth should be steered only to where there is the existing infrastructure to support it. And then on page 15, under goals, it says did I turn that off? Okay. It has multiple goals listed there. And on page 15, goal 2, it says maintain the county's rural way of life. Goal 5 says prevent private development practices that result in net costs to county taxpayers, which is why I brought up the tax thing earlier. Goal 5, no, that was goal 5. And then on page 84 of the comprehensive plan, inventory and assessment, agricultural/farmland. It says farmland, shown in map 9.5, which is on page 96, is classified by the National Resources Conservation Service, NRCS. This map identifies prime farmland, farmland of statewide importance, farmland of local importance, and unique farmland. The prime farmland map depicts farmland as green. These are concentrated in the west central part of the county, as well as just northeast of Salem. Prime farmlands are of primary importance, but all farmland has been deemed important by Washington County. Care should be taken in development to prevent the breakup of large farm tracts. And then on page 103, under utilities, the comprehensive plan says, number 1, extensions of utilities infrastructure should be targeted towards areas slated for economic development. That's not farms. Number 2, it says extensions should be contiguous, avoiding the inefficiency of leapfrogging over undeveloped areas. So that's in regards to the comprehensive plan. And this last part, and I know there's probably not a lot of landowners in here, but these are concerns that were addressed, that were brought up by landowners that I spoke to, as well as county officials that were having to deal with landowners. And, you know, like I said, I don't know about the particular power company that has approached Washington County. I have not seen anything of theirs. But what I have seen, and I have been given access to, one of the contracts from one of these green energy companies. And the contract contains a non-disclosure clause, basically saying that if the landowner signs this contract, they're never allowed to discuss what's in it with anyone. Now, obviously someone broke that confidence by showing me the contract. They did it in confidence. I'm not going to say who it was. The person trusted me. If all these companies don't have that in their contract, they can bring a contract in here and let you guys look at it for 60 days, let your legal counsel look at it for a couple months and go over it and prove me wrong. I'm happily, you know, conceding if I'm wrong. The one I saw had a non-disclosure clause in it. And you would think that if this was such a wonderful deal for everyone, why they would want to keep it secret. But, I mean, it's just questions you have to ask yourself. If the company abandons the equipment, the landowner is liable for the cleanup. That was in the contract. I know none of you are landowners that are considering this, but this is important for our landowners in Washington County. In the contract, it allowed for unilateral extension by the company. Unilateral means one. That means that if I sign a contract for so many years with a green energy company, with the particular one that wrote the contract that I saw, that they can extend it without me agreeing to it. That's what unilateral means. So you think you're signing it for 10 years. You know, I'm 50 years old. They can extend it another 10 years without even my permission. You're 7 years old. You know, they can do it twice in the contract that I saw. They can extend it unilaterally twice. You just gave your farm away. You just lost your farm. No, how many of us are going to live past 80? Seriously. Unilateral. Absolutely no consent from the landowner whatsoever. In the contract that I saw, it was unilateral extension by the company of 10-year periods. In the contract that I saw, they only pay for the acreage inside the fence once the solar farm is installed. So if they're leasing a huge farm, say it's a couple thousand acres, and they only put in a couple hundred acres of actual solar panels and put a fence around the actual unit that is built, if you read the contract, all of a sudden the acreage they're paying for is reduced to what's inside that fence, not the entire farm anymore. So it's not near as lucrative as what people think it's going to be, at least not in the contract that I saw. And then the contract that I saw, and this was the most disturbing thing that I saw in the contract, was that they retained the right to sell to any public utility once the facility was completed. So they could build the solar farm, and I'm using two different terms here. I'm using green energy systems and solar farms both. The particular one, the contract I saw, I mean, it's all green energy, but the contract I saw was for a solar farm. They can build it, operate it for however long, and then sell it to a public utility. Well, this may not be a governmentally owned public utility. It could be like Duke Energy, for example, or RMC, Jackson County RMC, whoever. Well, guess what? They will tell, these companies tell everyone that they are just construction, companies that construct green energy systems, and they don't have eminent domain and all that stuff. But guess who does have eminent domain? Utility companies have eminent domain. If they sell to a utility company, which the contract I saw they specifically reserve the right to sell to a public utility in the contract. You just lost your farm. Utility companies have eminent domain. They can come and take whatever they want. I mean, they have to buy it off you, but I mean, it's no longer a lease deal. Last of all, I don't know how many people are aware of this, but in the last 76 days of our former president being in office, basically from the day of the election through the inauguration, 76 days. During that time, and you can look this up, don't take my word for any of this stuff, by the way. During that time, $93 billion was hemorrhaged out of the Department of Energy. More than had come out of the Department of Energy in the previous 15 years. This money went for subsidies and loans. It was just dumped out of there. $93 billion, billion with a B. We throw numbers around like a hacky sack. I mean, people don't even pay attention to a billion anymore because it's such a small number in the grand scheme of things. But to put that in perspective, $1 billion is enough money to run this entire county's budget, including, I mean, we're talking the schools, the highway department, the landfill, the sheriff's department, the jail, everything in this county for 35 years. $1 billion. $93 billion is enough to do it for over 3,000 years. It's a huge amount of money. We operate on beans, okay? They've got billions. They've got lawyers that can run right over the top of this county. And this is why I want to bring it up to the attention of the public officials in public so you guys know what you're up against here. At the time that I did my research, which is 2 or 3 months old now, the number may have completely changed by now. But there was like 35 or 40, Kevin may have information on this too that's more up to date. There was like 35 or 40 counties in Indiana that are already involved in lawsuits with green energy companies. And I did a bunch of research on that. A lot of these lawsuits are not the counties suing the green energy companies. It's the green energy companies suing the counties. And you're like, why? And the reason is because what counties are doing is they're writing regulations for green energy, and they're passing ordinances, and they're allowing green energy companies to operate based on their restrictions, and the green energy companies are challenging the restrictions in court. And a lot of times the counties are losing. Please do your research. And here's why. Because the state has minimums. The state says, here's what you have to do. And when counties legislate unreasonably beyond the state minimums, they challenge it in court. If the court overturns it, you're done. You've already let them in the door. That is not where the Plan Commission has power in any county. Here's where the Plan Commission has power. And this is something that I dealt with all the time for the years that I was on the Plan Commission. We had multiple people over the years, probably 3 or 4 people that joined the Plan Commission when I was on there, that joined it for a particular purpose. They were like, I want to address this in the county. And then they find out they couldn't do that. And they're like, well, why am I even on the Plan Commission? I'm like, well, I don't know. Why are you on the Plan Commission? What we do is it's a land use planning. That is what the Plan Commission does. So If the plan commission makes it a use in the county, a permitted use for commercial green energy, there is nothing you can do. You can write regulations till you're blue in the face. 90% of it can be overturned in court. What you have to do is you have to make it a special exception in agricultural land in the county. And then they have to go before the BZA and have public hearings, and all the landowners need to be notified in the adjoining area. And you have to give them a variance to do it. If you deny the variance, there is nothing they can do. That is where the Plan Commission has power. Once you let anything in the door, it can be challenged in court. I hope you guys truly understand that that is where the power of the Plan Commission lies, is in what uses are allowed. You know, we need to write a good zoning ordinance. We need to write one, you know, you guys need to write one, the county needs to write one that has regulations for green energy in it. I highly, you know, encourage that. But most importantly, and quickly, what needs to be done in the time frame that the county has to operate for the moratorium is you need to just take the 2016 zoning ordinance, write an amendment to it that basically says that commercial green energy is a special exception in the county, in agricultural, which there's a map that is associated with that ordinance, and that it's a special exception, and change the use chart. And that'll cover you for right now, because that will require any green energy company to come before the BZA and get a variance to operate. And that is where you guys actually have authority. That's where you actually have legislative power to be able to say, okay, yes, we're gonna let you do it, or no, we're not gonna let you do it. And if you let them, like I said, regardless of what regulations you write, when you let them in the door, they can just about do whatever they want from what the other counties are telling me. And that's, I mean, I've talked to a bunch of other county officials, and this is a absolutely cookie cutter recurring, every one of them says the same thing. And I highly encourage you make some phone calls and make some trips to some neighboring counties that have had to deal with this stuff. Get it right from the horse's mouth. Don't take my word for any of this. So that's where the Plan Commission and the BZA can do something, is by letting it in the door to begin with. It is a legal practice, so you can't keep it from happening. You can just say where it can happen. That's land use planning. And if you say, hey, our farmland is precious and we don't want solar fields in our farmlands, then you make it a special exception there and they have to go before the BZA. Problem solved. Anyway, thank you very much for your time, and
Thank you for your information.
no problem. Glad you did. See you all later.
Thank you. All right, we'll certainly take all this under advisement as we move forward in trying to write up an ordinance specifically for, well, it will encompass green energy, but in our case, main emphasis is going to be on commercial solar farms, and it is something that is a hot topic right now. We'll be discussing that, I think, depending on how we get along with the subdivision control ordinance. Later in the summer, we'll certainly stay on this. I just want to remind everyone that the property owners who have signed leases, they too have rights. So we will try to come up with something that is fair and make sure we don't. Obviously, lawsuits is something that, as commissioners, that we deal with a lot. Nobody likes lawsuits, but we certainly don't want to get into a nasty lawsuit that could literally bankrupt the county. But we have to be fair and balanced when it comes to writing up our new ordinance for green energy. So thank you again, Adam. Yes, he's gone. Okay. All right, we'll move right along. Connor, do you wanna come forward, or do you stay where you're at? Doesn't matter.
I can come up real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, let's put him in the hot seat.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to see everybody. So just to kind of bring everybody up to speed, last month, we were fairly close to having this finalized. Daniel had some amendments, and we had a couple of amendments, and then we discussed some things, or you guys discussed some things as the board. We went back and made some of those changes. I highlighted any amendments that were made. Everyone on the board should have received a copy of that, and I feel like at this time, you know, unless the board has anything else they'd like to discuss, we're probably good to move to public hearing, but again, that's your guys' prerogative. If you have anything at all you have questions on or want to discuss before we do so, I'd be more than happy to do that.
I have a couple very minor questions.
Yes, sir.
Clarifications more than anything. On the first page, down on number 2, general provisions, D, we kind of touched on this several times, but I kind of wanted clarification. No parcel shall contain more than one residential structure, and I don't think it's not gonna be a big problem, but there are going to be people who, and I'm gonna use the elderly as an example, because I'm fast approaching that. So,
I'm there.
and I'm making lots of assumptions here, so I'm trying to find what would be a good example. A person has, they have a home, doesn't matter how old it is, doesn't matter how new it is, and then they're, one of their parents, up in the years, decide they want to build a legal structure, very small, I'm talking, you know, definitely, something like less than 1,000 square feet. How would that, how would this one provision, I know it's a touchy subject, but in trying to be fair and making sure that, one, it's safe, and sharing septic systems, things like that, could you just touch on that a little bit?
I think ideally this would be addressed in a zoning ordinance, because then you could vary from the zoning ordinance to the Board of Zoning Appeals, like Adam was speaking of, and that variance would be approved or denied on a case-by-case basis. If you guys are looking at making amendments to that zoning ordinance, I think an amendment to the zoning ordinance to include this and then provisions along the lines of either a hardship or that variance process would make a whole lot more sense than having this in the subdivision control ordinance.
Yeah.
This was somewhat forced because the zoning ordinance got scrapped. So we put it under the general provisions of the subdivision control. I think it would make a lot more sense to strike D altogether, make that amendment to your zoning ordinance, and then just, you can vary from anything in a zoning ordinance. And if you guys already have a zoning ordinance in place, I would just amend that and then allow that variance process through the BZA. I think that would be more appropriate than having.
Well, I mean, I think most people would agree with D, no parcel shall contain more than one residential structure. But we all know that there will be exceptions, and this is why we have a BZA.
100%.
So, I'm not saying strike it, I'm just saying that I just have a feeling someday it'll come up, and when that time comes, then they'll just need to get a variance. Because like you say, hardship, and every situation's different, it depends on, you know, the lot size. You know, if it's a 5-acre lot, if it's one parcel, 5 acres, it's not gonna matter. But just had that quick question. And then, let's see.
Along that line, before you move on to your next question, Todd, I had a gentleman, just this past week, he said that he was in a process, he had an elderly parent, his dad's really in bad shape, and he's wanting to have a structure close to his, but yet far enough, he's kind of on his own, medical people are coming in and that type of stuff, and he said, don't forget that, don't forget this in this, or in all that's going on. So whether it's, I'd like to see it in writing. Yeah, I'm in agreement with Todd on no more than one residential, but where we need to get it in writing somewhere, so that these, when they come in, they say, well, you need to go to BZA. And that's what I told the guy. I said, more than likely, you're gonna have to go to BZA and ask for a hardship case and go that way. But so, whatever we do, and Danielle's not here, we need to be sure that that's down somewhere, so that,
I really think I would strike it from this and then make an amendment to the zoning ordinance. I mean, that's a simple amendment, and you guys can do that at your next meeting. You don't have to go back and reinvent the wheel to just add that amendment. But the Board of Zoning Appeals does not have any jurisdiction over the subdivision control ordinance. This is a
Okay.
plan commission document.
okay, but this here would stay the way it is written,
It would
right?
just be
But then
another
we need to
document.
we need to take another step and amend the zoning ordinance.
I don't think it was ever a law or a rule or anything, but it used to be in cases like this that the commissioners would step in and give them a written exemption basically to the rules because of the hardship, the emergency or whatever,
Okay.
so.
That probably was prior to the BZA and the
Yes,
planning commission
yes,
being in
it was.
I mean, I don't care who, don't take this wrong, I didn't mean to say I don't care, I just, so whoever we know to do this, that we can refer those people to the right person to get that done.
Yeah, absolutely, because you'll have situations like these pop up that make all the sense in the world. I think everybody on the board understands that, and we're not trying to
Right.
eliminate that, but for the process to exist, I really think it needs to be amended into the zoning ordinance so they can pursue that variance.
And I had a question about the single structure. Does that include a duplex, which is, allowed to be built on any site anyway, so?
Yeah, it would be principal structure.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you're recommending that we just strike it, or no? Or
Move
just-
move it for an amendment to the zoning,
Okay.
which I agree with, because there's too many exceptions that,
Yeah,
I mean, we could put a limit on it and say it has, can't happen under so much acreage or something like that, but that's just opening another can of worms. To me, it'd be easier to move it into a zoning ordinance, and then each, situation could be handled on its merits, basically.
okay.
See,
We probably need to vote on that.
I think so.
Would someone like to make a motion to strike D?
Yes, I make a motion to strike D from paragraph,
Page one.
on page 1 to D, under general provisions. I make the motion to move that, was it term? I don't know what to call it, that provision, I guess, move that provision to the zoning ordinance so that it could be addressed through exceptions to the BZA if needed.
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye, raise your right hand. Thank you.
How would I just follow up? I would go ahead and be moving towards making that amendment, because that'll open a whole other can of worms, right? Like, I think this needs to be in there, but there also needs to be that variance process, so I would just, I don't know if Lisa wants to take a look at that.
Yeah.
However you guys want to address it, but I would be moving in that direction.
Okay, yeah, because that could easily be
It's happening now.
falling
in some
through the
places.
cracks, yeah. Okay, all right. The only other thing I had was, page 5, under minor subdivision on access.
What page are you on?
Page, it's under minor subdivision. I'll give this page 5. Minor subdivision, and then at the bottom, access.
Hard to find it without pagination.
There.
Okay.
Okay. So, all proposed parcels on A shall have adequate ingress and egress without the construction of new streets or extension of existing roads. I understand why that's in there, but if that is not the case, where existing roads are required in a minor subdivision, would it automatically then become a major subdivision?
Yes, sir. Anytime there's an extension of utilities,
Okay,
that becomes a major subdivision and requires approval from this board
okay,
and the commissioners, because that's when the commissioners will have to bond that or accept the financial guarantee on that road, and you guys will have to approve the roads and put them on your inventory.
okay. That answers that. That's all I have. Anyone else have any questions for Connor?
When it's appropriate.
I just had one, we're still gonna have to give out septic permits based on minimum lot sizes, that's a state law, but before it gets to confusion where, you know, you gotta have an acre minimum, how do we address that so people don't misunderstand that they can get a septic permit on a minimum size lot, but you still can't get a building permit until you got a 1 acre piece of property?
So,
There could be some confusion there for,
yeah, I mean, this ordinance will, anything prior to it being adopted will be grandfathered in for legal non-conforming. So if you have a half-acre lot right now and you get a permit to install a septic system on it, the health department can do that. This has nothing to do with that. This only pertains to tracts that are subdivided from the date of adoption forward. So the county is putting a minimum acreage of 1 acre on any new tracts that are created. But anything prior to the adoption of this ordinance is legal non-conforming and can be constructed on
be grandfathered in.
pending approval from the health department and Travis's office. Yep.
And that's as long as they have like their deed showing that it was recorded
Yeah.
with the
Yeah,
documentation.
and that's noted in here. It's just, if the deed takes place was recorded prior to the adoption of this ordinance, it's grandfathered in.
I was talking to a gentleman today, lives out of the county, and he said in the county that he lives in, they have a minimum lot size 2 acres there. But he said that, and I don't know if it's a county ordinance or if it's a state ordinance about septic systems, that they have to get a septic permit for one, but they have to have an alternative site on that same tract of land, that if that one fails, they have an access, they have another spot to go. Now, he said, but that alternative site, the second site, he said, you cannot do nothing on it. No buildings, nothing, just mow the grass, I guess. So I don't know, I don't know if that's a state process or if that's a local county process.
It used to be, that the state recommended an alternative site, and there was just a few counties in the whole state that ever required that. Floyd County was one, but in July of 2023, all that changed. Everybody had to throw their local ordinances out and adopt the state
okay.
rule, so there are no more alternative, systems. They got that direct discharge technology and all this other technology that they can overcome it without having a second site, so that's kind of the reason why.
I was just curious, because this gentleman's been involved a lot with subdivisions in his area and stuff, so
That's correct. Legislation changed a couple of years ago now.
thank you
Mhm.
for clarifying that. none, go back and straighten him out.
Okay. Marcia, do you have any questions? Lauren, Kevin?
No.
Connor answered all my questions already.
Lisa?
Yes, there are some issues with the citations. There's some incorrect citations. There's also some language, citations are listed, and there's language that conflicts with what's actually in the code. For example, we can't say shall if the word in the code is may. So if you go under subdivision authority on section 2, on the second page, item 7, you've got the county plan commission shall appoint, then you've got members, but the actual wording in the code is the county plan commission may appoint a plant committee to hold hearings and approve plats. So it's real important that if we have a code reference, that number 1 be accurate and updated, and number 2, that it contains the language actually in the code. Another example, that's in section 2, item 4. There's an important part of the process that we need to follow, and we get dinged pretty hard if we miss something. So it says, you've got here, after the subdivision control law ordinance is adopted, the plan commission has exclusive, and it goes on. It's actually a couple steps there. After the subdivision control ordinance is adopted and a certified copy of the ordinance has been filed with the county recorder. So there are 2 important parts of this requirement, so we definitely need to get that in there. There's reference in a few places here of the Indiana Administrative Code. It's specifically Title 865, Article 1, Rule 12. You've got different citations. One is just Rule 12 of the Indiana Administrative Code, but there's several titles, several articles, so we just need to be consistent throughout and make sure we're giving enough information where we can easily look it up. It's not unusual for the building commissioner and I to come across situations where we have to pull past ordinances, read the language, interpret what the drafters meant, and make sure we're following it correctly. And we just had a couple of examples in the last month where we reevaluated our interpretation of that, and it all boils down to what language is definitely in different codes that apply. I've given you a document that I'll send you electronically. This is what I referenced at the last meeting that I thought we were going to discuss after the meeting, but that's okay as long as we get to it. If we have code references in here that are inaccurate, it calls into question the accuracy of the whole thing, and we just really need to get it right. Now, if you need me to help you find what particular section of the code some of these references apply to, I'm happy to do that. But we absolutely have to be on point with the language and make sure it's not conflicting with the current version of the code. Thanks for your consideration of that.
Rather than you going back and forth with Connor, and this is your area of expertise with these codes and the law, obviously, would you care to revise that as needed? Because I think that would save a lot of time rather than.
I'm happy to do so. I've already done it in track changes in the Word document with comments and language where I know it's correct. So
Yeah.
that's already been done. All you have to do is accept the changes and it'll happen, but there are a couple things where I'm not really sure that he wants to put it in there. So I think some dialogue and interaction would be very important and valuable.
Oh, okay.
So she's your guys' legal counsel, and I'll put anything in here you'd like. I mean, that's why she reviews the document. I received this 10 minutes before the meeting, and we've had it
Yeah.
for 6 months,
Well,
but that's went 30 days to make amendments. So if you can just tell me exactly how you want that written.
It's right in what I just gave you, and I'll send it to you electronically.
Okay.
Okay.
I will make those changes, and I will strike letter D that we talked about and send that by Friday. But I guess my concern is if we're making changes and then I get it back to Lisa and then Lisa comes back with anything else, I want it right, but if we're gonna set it for public my opinion, a minimum of a month
Yeah,
for them
yeah,
to
I think that's,
ask questions of the office, so more than happy to come back next month, we wanna set up a public hearing then. I just do not want to go back and forth, cut this down to 2 weeks, post it on a website, not give people time to review it and have a public hearing.
yeah, I think we've all agreed that we need to give the public 30 days to look it over.
I mean, there's really not a lot here.
Yeah,
If you would like to amend the document exactly how you would like to see, I understand you want to be more specific. I don't necessarily agree that what I have in here doesn't cover.
It
That.
can't conflict with the Indiana code. It
Okay.
can't.
right, yeah. Why don't we do this, why don't we, is this something you could get revised, within the next week maybe, or?
It's already pretty much done.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
with track changes, you can
Okay.
read through
Oh,
them
good.
and accept them and
Okay.
incorporate them, and there are a couple things that there needs to be dialogue in, so I can see what his intention is. It's not really clear whether he wants to be, specific about certain language but not other language, but you can't generally reference the code, and you've got to have the correct captions in there. It has to be correct citations. So that when we go back and look at something, if there's a question or a problem you have to resolve with the property owner, we know to go to the right place.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Now, I'd like to see this move along,
Yeah, I
you
think,
know. Make
I'll
a
share,
change, and,
I'll share with everyone what I have prepared.
and Connor don't have to come, I mean, to me, it's time.
you were thinking on coming next month, and that would be our public hearing, that would give us the 30 days. So minus a couple days to get this ironed out a little bit. Is that okay, Lisa? Is that something we could?
Sure, I just want to see
Yeah.
the modified document to ensure that the code is proper and complete.
But if we're gonna have, is it required that we give 30 days? I mean, if it is, then maybe we need to set it for
No.
the 1st of
not
September,
required.
but not have him here next month. I mean, if it's required, that's why I didn't know if it was required or,
No, it's not required, it's just kind of that was a
Courtesy.
A courtesy.
courtesy and a comfortable time zone, given on what's going on in the past with all the melee and everything.
Can we not, instead of having a meeting the 1st of August, first Monday, make it a week later?
We certainly
Can
can,
we do that?
if everybody's in,
And then
yeah.
that gives time,
Okay.
it gives a few more days to get
find
that
all this,
done.
all this, and then
And then we get, keeps us moving.
Yeah,
yeah.
You know, if we just say, whatever day, the second Monday of August is, I don't know what day that is.
well, it's just a little.
I could look on my calendar, but I'm not gonna get my phone out.
Should ask you.
August the 8th.
Oh,
The 8th?
No, wait a minute, August the, right there it is, August the 11th.
The regular meeting was supposed to be the 5th, and we could bump it to the 12th.
12th.
can we do that legally?
I know there's already stuff going on with Purdue Extension Purdue Extension Office on August as well.
Okay.
If you want to bump it to September, I don't foresee it. Just your regular schedule.
But you
That's
could do it
fine.
on like a
I just was
Wednesday.
trying to-
There's nothing on the 13th.
I think that would make a lot of sense just to keep your meeting schedule consistent.
You wanna do that then, in September?
Okay.
It'll be here before you know it.
And I still think we make it a point that knock the changes out in the next week, and then you guys can go ahead and post it, but not set a public hearing, or you can set the hearing to not September, if it's just these few changes that need to make.
Yeah, we could do that. We won't have the,
Let's do it.
what's the first Tuesday in September?
Oh, my goodness. First Tuesday in September is the 2nd.
September 2nd. Everybody okay with that public hearing September 2nd?
Yes.
Emily?
Yeah.
Could I have a motion to that?
Give 'em a-
Motion by Andrew,
Everybody wants to
scheduled time,
Yes,
6:30?
thank you,
That's all
Connor.
I got, thank you.
That's all you,
That's all I've got. You guys have any questions? Well, I'll get these, I will send them to probably Lisa first, that way you can review them, and then we'll send everything to the full board, and you guys can get it posted and whatever you need to do.
so we have a public hearing.
Yes.
That's what you call progress.
Exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. And I will be in touch with you on another matter tomorrow.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you. All right. Did you have something you wanted to bring up?
You asked me at the last meeting to bring this back. This was a draft note. People that buy storage buildings, mini barns, and cabins.
Yeah, how's that work?
How it work?
Well,
The way it's drafted, it would work where vendors of these storage buildings, mini barns and cabins in Washington County would have to give a copy of this to any buyer, and they would have to be notified that what they're buying is not approved for residential use, if it doesn't have the insignia
mhm.
that's on the back page. Just as another step to try to inform the public that it would not be a legal structure to live in if you purchase something like this
Mhm.
and try to live in it.
Yep.
So it's one possible way of doing it. We don't have any duty to do this, I don't believe, but it could be helpful. You know, we did just learn in the last 60 days that there are some little cabins that are approved and have the insignia. We've talked to the fire inspector at the state level, and I provided that information to a couple of people in letters that we've had some issues with, so that's another way of helping them understand what their options are. This is yet another option. It's certainly not required,
Mhm.
but it is becoming a big problem. And I think Travis weighed in on that at the last meeting about how many we're seeing.
Mhm. It's becoming and has been a big problem
Yeah, it has.
for a lot of
Yeah.
years. Yeah, this obviously would not solve the situation entirely, but it would be one aspect of maybe slowing it down.
And, you know, it might even be worthwhile to take a draft of it to some of the vendors locally and let them know that we're thinking about doing this. And it might spur them to get some products in their inventory that are acceptable and approved for residential use.
Mhm.
Some may not know what it takes. It could be an opportunity for education to help them put some marketable products out there for people to buy and live in legally.
In the real world, when you present this to one of these small businesses that build these, do you know what they're gonna say?
Well, I don't know, but it's interesting. There is a new structure on 135 between Brown Road and Calara. On the left is where the very nice
Yes.
log cabin is. It looks to me that there's road marketing would be eligible for these that are produced up north.
It's huge, it's huge. I mean, it's big.
Yeah.
Did they get a permit for that, or? Or they just stuck it there, didn't they?
It's just a
Model?
sales
It's
model.
like a sales model.
We're assuming it is, right?
No, it is.
It is.
Okay.
They're selling them.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any signs out, so I haven't stopped because it doesn't look like there's quite yet an invitation for people to stop by and go through it or look at it.
It's too mellow.
But if they put it out there, I'll stop and look at it.
The three manufacturers insignia, are those from the manufactured home industry, or are they from some office in the state, or who actually issues those?
They are from the state. I'll ask Travis to speak to that if you don't mind. He's better versed on it than I am.
The two with the Indiana State insignia, that comes from State Building Department. That's
It's not just the manufactured house.
correct. The one above it is your.
So if I was a manufacturer, I would go to the state agency and they would give me one of these new insignias.
You would send plans up there, and then State Fire Marshal's office would review it, and then go from there with you, the producer.
Same way with the HUD sticker?
This is a HUD.
That's a federal.
This
one.
is a HUD
It's
sticker.
also
The HUD, it's just, the two Indiana ones, those are your two mod stickers. That comes from the state of Indiana.
And aren't they blue, red, and gold? They're different
Uh,
colors, I
The
know.
one on the left is gold, the other is blue.
So if I'm building this, building a structure and I want to have it comply with HUD, where do I go?
I don't know about that, that's different, that doesn't come from State Fire Marshal's office.
That's a federal thing.
Yeah.
That's-
So my understanding of HUD is that the home has to meet the criteria, not necessarily of where it's being set at, but it has to meet the HUD rules.
Have you ever seen one of these HUD stickers?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I deal with them all the time.
mobiles that come in.
Huh?
Basically, all your mobiles that come in,
Oh, they have that in
Yes.
addition
the
to,
top one,
yeah.
yeah.
They usually have this. These are, if
All
I
your double
understand,
wides and single wides that come in the
but they don't
county.
have the Indiana sticker. Those are
Do what?
mods, right?
Do what?
The HUD manufactured home is for what I call double wides.
Doubles and singles, yeah.
That's the ones where there's an actual axle under it and pull it out. These are mod stickers, the two on the bottom.
Crane set.
That's where
all
they're
that
actually
stuff.
set by a crane and are considered stick built. And
Sections.
Okay,
yes, and they have to conform to the building codes of where they're set at,
gotcha. All right,
as opposed to the actual HUD federal rules.
If I wanted to just build something to live in for myself, it would have to conform to your building.
I don't think any of these would apply.
Indiana's, yeah.
I think I'm not really sure about the blue one, the one on the lower right for the Indiana Mobile. That's the one that the little log cabins need to have to be approved for residential use. But Travis, isn't there also a structural requirement of how that structure's built itself, not only how it's affixed to the property?
Say that again, Lisa.
Isn't on the blue one for the Indiana Mobile, that's the one that these new log cabins we've seen that Todd Atherton has told us that they're approved by his office. That doesn't it also apply, don't they inspect it for the structure itself, not just how it's affixed? They have guidelines for how it needs to be affixed that they need to follow, that Travis will make sure that they do follow when he inspects. But the structure itself now also, I think, has to conform to certain requirements.
Correct.
so if I drive south on 135 and I stop in out there, this little cabin that's sitting over on the hillside, what am I gonna see?
The little cabin.
Well, is it gonna have one of these?
It should have, well, maybe.
Well, it's not
Maybe
gonna
not.
have this,
Right.
it's not gonna have this, so if they had evidently, from state of Indiana for it to fall under the rules for this.
To pass as a modular.
And I don't know if this one gets affixed to the structure itself or if it comes with paperwork. I
Okay,
don't know.
these are affixed. This is on the outside of a manufactured home. It's actually on both sections. It has to be on the corners of both sections. There's two.
That's for wheel.
These are usually inside of a closet on a wall or something like that.
And for a display model, they may not have that out there in case somebody would take it too. They might keep it locked up in an office somewhere. So you might not see an approved one with an insignia perhaps.
Yeah, I don't know, I didn't know that's what you were saying. I wasn't trying to be a smart aleck. I didn't, I thought he was.
I thought it was funny.
Well, I thought maybe he was asking, is there
Well,
like an office there or something? I was just saying, no,
No,
it's just the
my
cabin
point-
sitting there.
My point is, we have someone marketing a product and we don't, sitting here as a county, we don't even know if it's legal or not. So what we're doing is allowing them to market a product that we don't want placed in our county because this is what we're fighting.
If it's not legal.
But every
It would
mini
be
barn.
nice to know if it's legal or not.
Yeah, and every one of those mini barn places, to me, people think that those qualify. I think they all think that they could qualify, and they don't understand that they don't.
And I'm afraid that maybe some salespersons may misrepresent that they are, and maybe the salespersons think it's okay to do it too. Would you like me to contact the person that owns that property? Okay, I'll task myself with it.
My big thing is,
I'd like to go through it too.
my big thing is tie downs. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it should be a requirement that they're,
Well, there needs to be some fire retardants
Is there
too.
tie downs on mods? There's not tie downs on mods though, are there? It's on manufactured homes that are tie downs.
It depends how the home's made. If
Okay.
it's set, you have these that come in on runners,
yeah.
that will be more of a tie-down situation. Some of the mods come in and will be perimeter set, and that will fall back to like, just your regular, our regular building code.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It'll
do
be a
you
regular like
approve the
frame foundation.
Do you approve the tie downs too? Even on a manufactured home, you do it?
I do
But then they
also-
have to have structural engineers do it also.
That, they send the print, yes.
Okay,
And then I do the site inspection for the foundation, tie downs, securing the structure, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll report back and get floor plans and everything else.
Okay. All right.
They do look nice.
Oh, yeah, they're cute as a button. Yeah, they really are. And great, for people that want something economical and suitable, energy efficient. It's-
As long as they're safe,
Yeah.
that's the concern. Okay. All right. Do you have anything else, Lisa?
I don't think so. I have, I'll just say I have one draft of a possible solution for what happens if Wayne gets split off from a confined feeding operation. But I want to socialize it with the building commissioner and his staff.
Okay.
Just see if it works. My first draft seems more restrictive than I'd like it to be, and it doesn't really address what's already happened, I don't know if that has to be grandfathered in when someone gets approval and then they split off property and maybe do away with the set aside, or the setback as a result. I'm not sure how to address that problem, but I'm starting off with going forward. I've got some language about ideas I have for how to address it, and if they do split it off, I've got the idea that we have them within 120 days come back to the BZA to reevaluate whether or not they destroyed their setback and whether that operation should continue, but right now it's too restrictive, I think.
Okay.
So I want to get feedback.
Good. I think one thing that will help that situation tremendously is when the requirement for a survey takes effect. Then there won't be any surprises by adjacent landowners because clearly be documented in the surveyor's office, recorder's office, everywhere. So that would be a help.
That's all I have.
Anyone else have, Travis, you have anything else? David?
Nope.
Marcia? Kevin?
No, sir.
Anyone? Okay. Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn? Or are you making the motion?
You are.
I make
I make a second.
I'll second.
I didn't know if that was a question or not.
That was a question.
I think we
I
got
make a
some
motion to
competition.
adjourn.
I made the second.
Okay, Lori made the motion to adjourn. Kim made a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 I think you got a comment from the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, God.
Oh, I take it back.
We can still have a comment, can we not?
Sure.
You had your hand up.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, pull your,
Apologies, I must have missed the sign sheet.
pull your thing.
Well, my what?
Do you need to pull your motion?
I guess we're supposed to call this meeting back to order.
Oh, okay. We crossed it out.
I guess I'll call the meeting back to order. Sorry.
I'll make it again in a minute, just.
I got your back, Lori.
Just hang on, I'll get there.
Thank you for letting me speak briefly. I've got a few things that I'd like to hand out for the end of this meeting as well. Really, the purpose of me coming here today is just to say, by the way, Owen Speth, Ranger Power, 320 North Sangamon, Chicago, Illinois. Just that we're still here, still looking to move this project forward, and that we're happy to be a resource at really any time. We know this ordinance is going to take a lot of work and a lot of thought, so we're still here. Just wanted to respond to a couple things that Adam said as well. First of all, on tax abatement, I understand that it's an important topic. It is not this body's job to hand out abatement and things like that. It's obviously an important thing to consider, and an important thing to worry about. It's something we focus on a lot, but just wanted to remind that to the public. And in no way will our project cause neighboring taxes to rise. No one will foot the tax bill of our project. Any other decision outside of that is by the county. So,
Excuse me. So you're publicly saying you're not going to ask for an abatement, is that right?
no, that's not what I'm saying.
That's not what you're saying?
That's not, no. I'm saying it's it's not something that we have decided on currently.
Okay.
But if it were to happen, an abatement does not raise the neighbor's taxes to a project. So selling to a public utility as well means no property taxes will be paid. That is false. I'm not entirely sure where he got that idea. I'd love to see a source there. But as far as we're concerned, he has to pay the same amount of taxes, and so the public utility does if a project is sold to them. Selling a project to reduce taxes, every project is required to pay taxes for a project. Anything dishonest outside of that, there's, I think the hope that the county can notice it. And then the discussion on the lease, and I know he said that it wasn't our lease specifically, and I appreciate Adam for making that distinction. I want to be very clear that we do not require the landowner in any way to decommission or clean the project up. We're required to bond with them or another entity. It's in our lease. In no way will the landowner be required to clean a project up if a company is to go under. I want to be very clear about that as well. That's in none of our leases.
Would you guys be willing to give the board copies?
And that's where
of
it
those?
becomes complicated as well. I discussed this with Danielle actually already, and it goes back to keeping the leases quiet. Really, they're proprietary information, and the reason why we're unable to share that is because then language that we see as part of our intellectual property then can become public for other solar companies to use. So we really value our lease. We value that we can get landowners to come on board through attorney review. We encourage everyone to get that We're very clear about the terms of the lease, that we have up to 40 years to generate electricity and can extend it for periods of 5 years. We're also very clear about payments inside the fences, and sometimes landowners negotiate themselves out of that. So we can give a lot of details on the lease and exactly what they're requiring a lease copy. It's not something legally our legal team will allow. So again, we can be a resource to, tell the truth about every aspect of our lease, and are happy to do so. And we're clear about this with landowners too. I mean, he brought up the idea of payments inside fences and the terms of the lease. All of these landowners know that, and they made the decision based off of those factors. That's about it. As much as I would plan to talk about. I will add one more thing. This 96 billion discussion that's being audited from Biden's Department of Energy. It's a big number, obviously. We just want to be very clear that this 96 billion doesn't go straight to the utility scale solar industry. The vast majority of that money was used in some other completely different realm, some completely different industry. It could be anywhere from, clean coal projects to EV tax credits, electric vehicles. And we're a very specific part of this industry. And we do, rely on some tax credits, which are in jeopardy, but it's not gonna kill our company, and it's not gonna kill this project. It's a strong industry, and we aren't nearly as reliant on the tax credits and subsidies that those giant numbers can indicate. So I just wanna be very clear there as well. And I'm open to any more questions. And I guess my one last point is, at the end of the day, we're in agreement with Adam before on what the goal is here, and it's a special exception with the variance. We've been clear to many members of this planning commission as well, the ones that we can speak to, that we are totally open to an ordinance. It's something we'd actually like to see as long as it's reasonable, well thought out, and we can work with it, So I wanted to be very clear there that our goal is to not stop this ordinance from coming. It's to get it done, efficiently, as quick as it can be with the amount of time that's needed to be given to it, and thoughtful, considering the rights of landowners, here as well, to do what they want with their land. So I'll end with that. Thank you for giving me that few minutes. I really appreciate it.
I have a question. Has your company Ranger power, right? I keep wanting to say it the other way around.
Yeah, that's the point.
Ranger.
My son loved Power Rangers. Have they ever sued a county the way Adam was talking about?
I can really only speak to Indiana, and no, not here. As
How
far
many
as
states do you have footprints in?
in the Midwest right now, the Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and Missouri.
None
So
in
those-
Indiana?
And Indiana, and including Indiana as well. Yeah.
So you don't know if they have?
I believe there has been some in other states, but my state is Indiana, and I can't give specifics, I believe, on those. What I can say is that, litigation is a cost for us as well. We also recognize the importance of maintaining a relationship with the county that you're working in, and as long as, again, an ordinance is written well, and thoughtfully, like Adam said, it really should protect the county in the best way possible, and it's something we're all for.
So the other way around, have you been sued over your contract? Have farmers sued you all over the contract that you have with them? I guess you only know Indiana.
Again, Indiana, no. I can pretty positively say for the rest of our projects, no as well. And I'll just, reiterate that we do encourage everyone to have an attorney review it, and we're very clear about the terms of our contract.
if you put in a solar farm and you went bankrupt, would there be enough bonding, which would be up to us, to be sure there's enough bonding, but is there enough bonding to clean up or decommission and get rid of it? And if there's not, who suffers on that? The landowner? Or what, or who?
So, again, we are required to bond either with the governmental entity or the landowner itself, or themselves. That bond requirement is different in each lease that we have. So it changes. But I will say one thing too, that the project is valuable. All of the equipment that is on the land is very valuable. And the money to decommission the project usually is more than covered by selling what is on the property. We've heard, 4 times as much, and that's from what you get for the equipment on the project.
I wish I could get my pickup truck to be worth 4 times more at the end of its life than what
Well,
it is.
it's not the end of its, 4 times at the end of its life. And again, it depreciates, but, let's say less than 10 years after it's put in, what you get for selling the project is worth 4 times more than it is to decommission the project. That's taking everything out of the ground and restoring it to what it once was.
And there's no way you'll get it back the way it was. I know better than that, but go ahead. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said, I don't get an argument, but
I can't argue it other than we have requirements on our lease to restore the ground to reasonable amount what it once was.
okay.
As far as county decommissioning requirements go too, and I'll hand, these are some explanations on state siting, a county that has adopted state siting, and another county that has adopted, a little more strict guidelines than state siting. You'll see that they have bond payments scheduled out. This is something that the county can change, can alter an ordinance, can even require us to bond the full price of the project prior to construction completion. But I do want to point out that, the value, it's overkill when the value of the project greatly outweighs what it costs to decommission it. And if we want
Thank
to
you.
discuss, the toxicity of things and the ability to, keep the land,
My mind was going there, but I wasn't gonna say it.
yeah. And that's the other thing too, is that, again, we know this is a big topic. We know there's some confusing things, there's some conflicting things out there as well. We're more than happy to sit down in a public, private, any type of meeting to again, talk about those specific concerns, and give our side of the story. Not to convince y'all one way or another, just to show you, what the industry, how good companies like us approaches things like that in the industry.
Well, I'm sure you'll be back in August, so
Yes, sir.
we will have a little time, hopefully, to get this going and address this since we're going to have a little bit of a lull, waiting for a public hearing for the subdivision control ordinance in September, so this might be a good time to get this rolling along, because we don't want to hold you up, and it needs to be addressed, so
Really appreciate that.
that's our plan, I think. At least that's my thoughts. I think everyone else shares that too. We don't want to put this off.
Really appreciate it. And then, I'm not sure what the okay thing to do is, can I hand these out now, or should I wait until?
Sure,
after?
go ahead.
Okay, cool. Like I said, it's just, the county adopting, the state ordinance zoning, that's kind of tough to read through, so I also printed out a Purdue article that explains each of the points in state citing. And then Miami County up north also has a decent ordinance as well. Like I said, it's a little more stringent. Good things to read, and
second.
Yes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Owen, thank you.
Second, doormat.
Very much.
Just in case.